U.S. Congressman John Larson.
Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. I hope everyone's voted today. If you haven't, make sure that you do. But I want to thank Joel, and I want to thank the coalition for their unbelievable work. It's good to be here with Chip Patone, who is also a great friend and has done great work with fuel cell energy. And as chairman and co-chairman of the Hydrogen Caucus in the United States Congress, it's good to see this kind of a turnout. It's rare that as a member of Congress, you're able to get up and talk about an industry that embraces not only an energy source, but a future economy, a key to foreign policy, and also a key to the environment. So when you can talk about an industry that's clean, that has a bright economic future, centered around jobs and technology and innovation and science, and embraces the most abundant element in the universe, then you know you have a clear winner. In Washington, however, just ask my good friend Boone Pickens how easy it is even to try to get something like Natural Gas Act passed in the United States Congress. So we do have our work cut out for us, but you'll be hearing from Senator Blumenthal later on, and we've introduced a bill and that we think is going to be very helpful, but we want to make sure that we're getting the kind of investments and tax credits into what we believe is a strong and vibrant future, one that will enhance our environment, enhance our energy supply. In the Northeast, we are still recovering from the devastating effects of Sandy. In the state of Connecticut, I'm proud to say that every single facility powered by fuel cells did not fail and was up and running. And in fact, you go back to Katrina, or you look at the evacuation of hospitals, and you look at the loss of power, and you can straightforwardly and honestly say if there were fuel cells there powering those facilities, it would have cut down on the loss of life and on the incredible inconvenience and problematic concerns that are raised when we lose a power source. So I'm very bullish on fuel cell technology and fuel cell energy. In Connecticut, we're blessed to have outstanding companies. You're going to be hearing from Chip later on as well. But I just wanted to take time today and stop by and let you know of our strong support in the United States Congress and our continued efforts to move this great industry forward and to make sure that there's the kind of tax credits and the kind of investment and the kind of certainty that we know will only continue to grow and have this industry grow and prosper. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you so much.
Okay, there's a tough act to follow. Okay, my name is Joe Reinbold. I'm Director of Energy Initiatives, Connecticut Center for Advanced Technology. Also, I'm the founder administrator of the Connecticut Hydrogen Fuel Cell Coalition and the Northeast Electrochemical Energy Storage Cluster. I'm here to talk about our supply chain and the relationships that exist within this industry.
You're welcome.
Let me start off. We've got very strong drivers. We've got drivers that are shared by global markets, a need, a desire, demand for lower energy costs, a need, a demand to reduce the volatility of imported oil or reduce the use of imported oil, higher efficiency, lower emissions, including greenhouse gas emissions. The market for this industry is significant. Right now, we've got our market folks telling us it could be between $43 and $139 billion by 2030. That's a huge number, $43 billion to $139 billion. But here's a catch. It's not ours without some hard work. There's no guarantee that we're going to get a piece of this market, but it does say we've got a tremendous opportunity in front of us, and it's an opportunity that will be driven by that global market. We do expect that our hydrogen and fuel cell industry may be able to meet this demand safely, conveniently, but we do have to address a few things. And as we heard from our plenary discussions this morning, one of the things we have to address is cost and also some durability, and I think that was made clear by some of the statements we heard this morning. We've got to get the right products to the right markets. And we're seeing that. We are seeing some of this come forward. We're seeing the delivery of products increase. In 2008, 7,000 fuel cell units were shipped. 2011, it went from 7,000 up to 22,000 units. So that's substantial progress. We're moving in the right direction. Also in 2008, 10 megawatts of units shipped. It's moved up to 60 megawatts. So once again, we're moving in the right direction, and clearly we are addressing cost and durability. In addition, I know there's a number of researchers here, and compliments to our researchers, including Eric, who spoke this morning. We do enjoy tremendously successful research. Our fuel cell industry now has over 6,000 patents, and that's compared with 1,500 patents for wind and about 2,000 patents for solar. So the number of these patents suggests that research is moving forward. We are addressing cost, durability, reliability, and we're looking at those markets to, once again, try to get the right product to the right market. Here's what I want to move into now, and that is, in addition to energy efficiency, energy reliability, I want to talk about another part of the value stream, and that is this transition using innovation, development of new technology, but moving into commercialization, the retooling of our manufacturing supply chain for commercial deployment. The notion to retool, commercialize the manufacturing supply chain will strengthen the economy. It will create jobs, and it will provide a mechanism to get more technology to those markets. In the Northeast, we have been successful, and it hasn't been coincidentally, but right now the Northeast has about 5,800 jobs engaged in the industry. The Northeast has about 1,200 companies engaged in the research, development, manufacture, and deployment of hydrogen fuel cell technology. We've got leadership from 30 OEMs, and we've got a total revenue of about $1.2 billion. $1.2 billion. Now, that sounds terrific. But remember, our market folks have said we've got a market for 2030 between 43 and 139 billion, and we've got 1.2 billion. Once again, what this means is we've only got a small piece of the market, and there's a tremendous opportunity. We're a long way away from fully occupying that market. That means, good news, we've got a terrific opportunity to get, again, the right product to the right market. Commercialization with investment, will provide the environmental value, will increase energy reliability, and It will provide that economic dividend, that favorable cash flow, the job creation that will assist with economic recovery that'll keep this cluster glued together. Connecticut, the Northeast, we're well positioned. Is that me? We're well positioned to be part of this clusters. We've got companies like Chips Fuel Cell Energy, Proton On Site, UTC Power. I see our friends from Precision Combustion out there. Other companies in the region, Plug Power, Watt Fuel Cell, Delphi, Giener, Lilliputian, Acumetrics, Nuvera. All these companies that have representatives in the room today, they're all part of the supply chain, and they're all ready to be part of this, to compete and to be part of this global market. The economic impact of this collective industry is expected to be long-term, and we do expect strong engagement from markets, and it'll be competitive with those markets in Asia and Europe. Recently, we've had a terrific announcement from Fuel Cell Energy with their contract with our friends over in Korea with POSCO, and maybe Chip, you could mention that. But here we are addressing the global markets with a company moving forward. Whether it's for transportation or fuel production, hydrogen production, portable power, stationary power, our industry is working to meet these market needs, and we're looking to work with the market to deliver those products. But we have to have solid business plans that focus on that other 97, that other 99% of the market that we have not reached yet. The success of our cluster, of our industry in the Northeast has had help. It hasn't been coincidental. You know, we've had some good leadership from individuals. We've had good founding industries. We've had supporting policy. State guidance plans have been helpful in providing some guidance. In the Northeast, one of our key guidance documents has the development of roadmaps, and these roadmaps were quickly identified at this morning's plenary. Our vision of the roadmaps have short, concise, to-the-point documents that identify the economic impact of a particular area, geographic targets for deployment, and policy that can remove the barriers that will increase deployment at those geographic targets, which will reinforce economic value. So that's the plan. Economic impact, geographic targets, policy. We've drafted and we've worked with every partner in the Northeast, and we've come up with these roadmaps, these hydrogen fuel cell roadmaps for every state from Maine to New Jersey. And we have them available. My colleague Paul Resta here is at the Northeast Connecticut booth. And Paul, we've got copies of these. Please take a look at these. And also what we're working on is to put these state roadmap documents together into a regional plan that'll provide regional guidance on stationary fuel cell deployment, perhaps of value at this point in time to consider energy reliability for storm response, deployment of hydrogen vehicles coordinated with refueling stations, and where and how those refueling stations can be deployed in coordination with the deployment of vehicles. This moves on right now. I think this is the first time ever we've had an initiative to pull together multiple state roadmaps into a regional plan. This is what we're working on. And that's not to say that other regions aren't doing the same thing. We've worked closely with our partners and our friends in California, South Carolina, Ohio. Each of these states and regions are also engaged in planning. The planning process of identify where you are, where you want to go and what are the mechanisms to get from where you are to where you want to go. We work as partners, and we work with this competitive industry to move the collective industry forward. Integration of the supply chain is a key component of these roadmaps. We need to know all the players. We need to know all the players, and essentially all the players are in the room today. I mean, you are the players, so you're the people that should be engaged in these guidance documents, the deployment of this technology, and the coordination. And we've gotten a lot of help from our friends in government who are also in this room. The U.S. Department of Energy, the U.S. Small Business Administration, the national labs have all been tremendously helpful. For all you folks who are with the labs, with DOE, with the SBA, thanks very much. You've been helpful to help us move forward with the industry. Some have suggested that the hydrogen fuel cell technology will revolutionize transportation and electric production. I agree, and that's where I'm at, and that is my vision. We will see this revolutionized, and this we'll see our industry move forward as oil becomes more cost prohibitive, and as oil price becomes more volatile, as natural gas becomes more available, as we see more of an emphasis placed on control or management of greenhouse gases and other emissions. We'll see the industry move. Tom, I have taken my credit card, swiped your Sun hydro station, filled up a fuel cell vehicle with hydrogen, and driven away with the 330-mile range. It's pretty darn easy. It worked pretty good. It was pretty convenient, and I drove away knowing that the photovoltaic cells on top of that roof were powering up my vehicles for that next 330 miles. So we are going to revolutionize the industry, and we're seeing it happen, and thanks for helping, thanks for being part of the plan. In conclusion, let me suggest this. I think this is one of our big global manufacturing opportunities, one of our biggest opportunities for the decade and maybe beyond, to commercialize that manufacturing supply chain, to move forward and to take care of our energy future. Let's use this. This initiative wisely, carefully. Let's make sure everybody's engaged so that we can get everybody's input and move forward. Thanks very much. Quickly again, stop by the booth, take a look at these roadmaps. Read the Hartford Currents that are out in front of your room this morning, and read about fuel cell energy. What I'd like to do now is to call upon one of our industry leaders, Chip Bottone, President, CEO of Fuel Cell Energy. Chip is going to talk about his business plans and where he is and how he plans to get from point A to point B and meet the global market demands. Chip?
Thank you, Joe.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's certainly a privilege and an honor to be here today. And as I look out into the audience here, I'm somewhat from outside the industry, about 2-3 years worth in the industry, fuel cell industry specifically. But what's always impressed me was the quality of the people, certainly the technical capabilities that we have, the passion, the innovation focus, but the passion many of you have for trying to do what many people have not been able to do for 40 years. So today, again, I'd like to thank those who've invited me here. I'd like to share a few thoughts regarding the future of the global fuel cell industry. But I'd also like to thank Congressman Larson, who came down here today. I guess there was nothing else to do today. Senator Blumenthal will be here in a minute. I'll have the opportunity, I think, to introduce him, who's been a keen supporter, both of them, in many, many different aspects of the industry. And I think we're here in Connecticut today for lots of different reasons, but I do want to recognize the effort that not only, as Commissioner Smith said earlier, but from the governor to the commissioners, Commissioner Esty, et cetera, and our federal support is really critical to moving this industry forward. And specifically for Connecticut, maintaining Connecticut as a very, very strong voice and base in the fuel cell industry on a global basis. So today I had two themes that I would just like to share with you. One is the current state and perceptions of our industry. The second is the roadmap for growth and profitability. And the reason I put profitability up there, it's very difficult to have a healthy industry without profitability. At the end of the day, all of us are aspiring to do things like lower costs, increase reliability, durability. All that speaks to the fact that we have to have businesses that run in the future without incentives. And I really do believe, sitting here today, assessing where we are, if we do certain things, which I think we're capable of doing, it is our moment. It's been a long time coming, 40-some years, maybe longer for some. But given the macro trends, which I'll try to address here shortly, and some of the opportunities that I think that are there for us to grasp, I do think it's time for us to have a very, very candid conversation about delivering on the promises that many of us would like to deliver. So first, let me kind of deliver the world that we live in today. It may not be friendly. One of the indices that we follow, if you're a publicly traded company, is the Winter Hill Clean Energy Index. It encompasses the solar industry, the wind industry, fuel cell, battery, et cetera, et cetera. As you can see by the numbers there, it's not been kind since the inception of 2005. It's also not been kind in the last 12 months. So for anybody that's a public company trying to raise money or things like that, it's a very difficult environment. Even if you have a venture model, it's very challenging to try to raise money in these times. And what they're looking for is it our time? Can we deliver businesses that have consistent growth, can reach profitability within the near term, and then go on to expand into, I think as Shannon might have said, a real commercial business? The second quote I put in here, I had the opportunity to speak to this particular writer, Eric, and I remember my investor relations people saying, he's a really tough reporter, he's really tough on the fuel cell industry. I said, I want to talk to this guy if I can't meet this guy. And so he wrote this article that basically had this list of the top 3 to 5 most profitable fuel cell companies, and obviously it was an empty page. So he gets on the phone and I said, I just want you to know, Eric, that you've made my job easier. He said, what? I said, yeah. I said, I take that article and use that to motivate the employees in our company, and should be the industry, that we're going to be on that list. He said, really? I said, yeah. He goes, oh, well, tell me what else you want to tell me. So the point is that there's people out there that have an expectation that we can't do this. I beg to differ. And finally, Carrie Ann Adamson, who couldn't be here today just because of travel, I think she got it right. She said that in the next 24 months, 6 to 24 months, are going to be critical for the fuel cell industry. I would say 6 to 12, maybe 18, but I think she's right on with her perceptions of where we are. So I guess the answer, the takeaway on the slide is, the industry has overpromised and underdelivered for a long time. And I believe now, with a lot of the other things going on in the world, with the capability in this room and elsewhere, that we now have the tools in place to prove people wrong. So what do we see going on? My first comment here about utility adaption. I'm not at all against utility companies. Many of them are in the room perhaps today, not as many, frankly, as we would like probably. But I think that there has to be some dialogue about adaption. Many of the financial models, public or private, and others that were put in place to drive the utility industry for many, many years are just that, old. It's a similar conversation perhaps about some of our schools. We have to learn to adapt. Things aren't the same as they used to be. There's many examples of that. So we'd like to work with the utility industry, with the Public Utility Commission, with FERC and others to try to say what's the proper mix here to basically try to move the industry forward relative to distributed generation, hydrogen, fuel cells, things like that. Second, whether you believe in climate change or not, it needs to be dealt with. Some people like it, some people don't. But the point is that, if we can do something clean and efficient, it's not a bad thing. We should feel good about that. Access to low-price capital. The cost of capital has come down a lot. Many of our companies are faced still, when we're doing project, with some premium on the price of capital. But I believe, as Brian Garcia said earlier, or Commissioner Smith, that the states are doing things, and frankly I see around the globe, states and cities are doing things to help drop that risk profile on the financing, meaning that the financing of projects is going to be easier to do in the future, thus aiding deployment. I won't go through every other thing like global denuclearization, but one thing I want to bring out is that no matter where you are in the world, everybody wants to know, can you bring sustainable job creation? Okay, it's nice to do all the other things, but given the economy right now, that's a critical point. Everybody's willing to listen to that. And what I think is unique about the fuel cell industry is the technology and the know-how is so significant that it creates an opportunity for, in fact, that sustainable job creation model. Not saying that wind and solar can't do the same, but we can do it on a distributed basis, which is very, very enticing to people trying to put together deployment programs around the globe. So I'm here as Fuel Cell Energy's representative here to talk about the entire industry, and here I guess is where either the provocative or controversial part starts of the discussion. But basically, I'd just like to share with you the thoughts on the landscape as we've tried to compile not just programs, meeting senators, presidents, or head of utility commissions around the world, but the way we kind of see things developing around the world is really in 4 distinct buckets. And there's reasons for that. There's technology reasons, there's scale reasons, application reasons, and I won't go through the details. But I guess if you kind of start to the right, there clearly, and many of you people are focused on the mobile side of things. And then there's what we would call the micro CHP, which has applications in residential, small commercial. Then we would call it sub-megawatt, which is a little broader into commercial, some light industrial, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have the megawatt class to the far left. There's lots of different reasons that each one of those markets will develop as it does. But at the end of the day, what we have to have is lower cost, a higher value proposition, and we've got to rally around how do we work together to basically make the winners, or I should say the most potentially viable businesses in there work together for the better part of the entire industry. Because if we continue to sub-optimize things, we're never going to reach that critical mass that we all need to get the cost down and leverage the talent and know-how of experience that many of our companies have over these some 40 years. So globally, a lot of people are doing something. What's interesting about this chart, and if I miss somebody, I'm sorry, is that everybody's doing something slightly different. Wouldn't it be nice if we can take some of these critical mass areas here, be it North America, Europe, or Asia, and basically try to put together the whole chain of fuel cell capabilities or applications? That's really the challenge, because we have different people doing different things in different places, and that somewhat sub-optimizes the talent that we have, and frankly, you'll see in a minute, the cost. The next thing is, what's the next big market? Sitting up here today, 5 years ago, did we know that Korea was going to be the largest market for fuel cells in the world? I wish we did, but you know what? Luck sometimes works as well. And we're thankful that you can develop markets, and the next new market is the question mark. But that's really the challenge for us, is how do we leverage political as well as academia and others to basically work as one to try to move the entire agenda for the fuel cell industry forward. So let me talk about the cost of that. The fact is that to start a commercial or get to a truly commercial business costs a lot of money. If you look at the bottom, which I call development, there's a lot of, doing development, you can make a little money, you don't have to spend a lot, the burn rate's not so bad, but the huge challenge is how do you transition from a development business to a commercial venture? You can put whatever number you want at the top and the bottom, but one thing's for sure, it costs a lot of money. Is it $700 million? Is it $1 billion? It's a lot of money. okay? And there's multiple models that you can use to get there. But given the slide 2 or 3 that I showed before, it's very hard to raise that kind of money today. But everybody wants to be in that commercial bucket. We need to be in the commercial bucket to realize all the benefits and all the things that we all want to do. So I think the challenge of the industry is how do we work together? Because it's going to be more and more difficult to get more money even out of the public markets today or even the private sector. So we have to figure out how do we best leverage, what we do best independently for the good of the whole. The other thought is, and this is a slide on ourselves. Joel asked me to mention one thing here, but the concept is, can you really do this at a component level, or you have to have an integrated solution? Our view, based on a lot of different experience, and other companies as well when we talk to them, you really have to have a fully integrated solution here. And what I mean by that is it's great to have a component supply and working on R&D at that level, but it's somebody at the end of the day, if it's all about deployment, has to own the customer. And we have to figure out how do we all make money at that. And this is where the hidden jewel of this industry comes in, because we have a sustainable model. Most of our products that we put out in the field need either service or restacking or something. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And if you look there at the 300 megawatts that we have either installed or in the backlog, and Joel mentioned just on Monday, we received a follow-on order from our terrific partner in Korea, POSCO Energy, for another 120 megawatts that we're going to deliver over 4 years. The point of that is not that we got the order. The point of that is we're now reaching commercial volumes of production, and we're seeing in our factory where the costs are coming down dramatically. And we have to reduce the cost if we're going to be competitive in the future against other conventional or other technologies. And here's the slide. I won't go through all of it, but really what it says is if you look to the left, what you see there is the price of power that fuel cells, roughly speaking, can produce today, subsidized and unsubsidized, using $8 gas, which people would say, well, we don't have $8 gas. Well, that's the good news. We don't have $8 gas. But basically, the challenge is for us to reduce the cost or the operating cost and put in whatever price of gas you want to basically be able to compete, which is on the right, which is more traditional power generation forms. And by the way, on the right, we do not have any kind of disposal costs in those numbers, whether it's fossil, whether it's nuclear, or what have you. So our challenge right now is to reduce the cost so that we can be competitive without incentives in the industry. That will make a healthy industry. That will make a profitable industry. Then people will get noticed and say, we've got to have one of these. I don't care whether you're in India or you're in Seoul or you're in Chicago. The other item we need to focus on is really what is our deployment strategy. And what we've seen over the years is it's kind of a three-legged stool. Yes, we like incentives. How much? How do you apply them? That's nice. We have to deal with regulation. They're just back to my, utility adaption. Is their operating model inhibiting our be able to be part of the portfolio? Maybe yes, maybe no. But we've got to keep working on it. We can't just put that aside and say somebody else is going to solve that. And third, we've got to go where we can go first and deliver the best value right now. So I would say it's segmentation. One of the things we cannot do as an industry, in my personal view, our personal view, is we can't be everything to everybody. There's some that are better than others in terms of how we can solve the problems or get higher value. But I think we have to be careful that we don't try to be too much to too many people, and we do everything 80%. We have very talented people that you put on problems. I've seen it, we solve them. But the same has to be applied to the logic of commercialization. I mentioned the work that's being done by Congressman Larson and Senator Blumenthal. This is an example. Here in the state of Connecticut, we have different policies and things, but we said to them, look, can you help us out on a more national basis? And they were kind enough to sponsor a bill that was actually put on the floor of both the Senate and the House to basically increase the investment tax credit substantially from where it is based on performance. So the point of that story is that we're fine with increased spending as long as it's based on performance. And these gentlemen have been huge, helps us, not just the state, but on a national basis to help with these incentives in the short term that basically will help us drive that deployment. The value. We have to deliver value. We all make mistakes. If this was so easy, we'd have done it before. I tell that to customers every time I see them, and some of the people in my organization go, oh, he's not saying that again. But it's really about setting expectations, because you have the customer value. You can see there's economic value we have to talk about, and it comes in different forms. But it's also about shareholder value, particularly if you're a public company. Not even, I guess, if you're raising money through other means. But we have to kind of look at these three buckets. It speaks to my comment about segmentation. It speaks to my conversation about cost reduction and reliability improvement. But we've done a lot of different studies here. We as an industry create high-paying jobs no matter where we are. That know-how, that IP that we have, a fuel cell looks really simple, and it's so simple, right? We've been working on it for 40 years. But the point is that we have built into that the ideal opportunity to basically create that economic value wherever we might be. Now, we have to be careful and clever, but we've done it, other people have done it. It gets a lot of attention these days. So just an ending here, what's the vision here for the entire industry? And again, I think that we're clear that on-site generation is an opportunity, and if you look to the far left here, the bigger allows you to scale up and basically produce products, continue to lower that cost of ownership. We see emerging opportunities, be it ships, be it aircraft, believe it or not, for fuel cells. Clearly, the infrastructure for the hydrogen highway needs to be delivered. And then ultimately, mobile applications, and there's other applications out there with carbon capture or carbon concentration. So my point of this whole thing is some are more near-term than others, but the answer is that in our view, the industry needs to create the critical mass necessary to create viability in it. And I think that's our challenge, all of us. Some of us have to do it on a quarterly basis in front of investors. Some have to do it with angel investors. Others just have to run a business the right way. But I think that there's plenty of opportunities for us out here if we find a way to work together, pool our resources, and make the good decisions to prioritize. So with that, Joel, I guess I'm done here. I don't know if Senator is here. Okay. So Shannon, it's okay with you. We'll just open it up to some Q&A here in the remaining time until the senator gets here. Then I'll introduce him, and then he can say a few words. Okay? Like any of us. There's a huge award for the hardest question, by the way. Biggest part of our budget. Okay. No questions.
Chip, let me ask you a question.
Okay. Okay, let me do this. Just, yeah. Senator. Oh, you got to get his mic on. It's certainly an honor to introduce a friend, certainly to our company, a friend of the industry, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart, Senator Blumenthal from the great state of Connecticut. Senator, thank you for coming today.
Perfect timing. It's all yours.
I am honored and delighted to be with you on this really eventful day. First of all, eventful because of the magnificent news which we heard rumors about relating to fuel cell energy. Congratulations to Chip, to Michael Bishop, to all of your team at Fuel Cell Energy Corporation in Danbury and Torrington on the great news about the contract with the South Korean enterprise POSCO for $181 million, I think one of the largest contracts in your history, which means perhaps 100 or more jobs in the Torrington and Danbury area. A perfect illustration about how proudly America and Connecticut are leading the way in this very, very important industry, one that provides about 3,000 jobs in Connecticut, 11,000 across the country, and this agreement for 121.8 megawatts obviously is a subject of a lot of conversation here, a lot of excitement and enthusiasm, and I'm very proud of the great work that this company is doing for Connecticut, in Connecticut and for Connecticut, to show the way that America can be at the forefront of this very exciting industry. And of course, it has all kinds of applications. I've seen many of them myself, from the fuel cell buses in Hartford to Carla's Pasta in eastern Connecticut to the Science Center in Hartford. There are just a magnificent array of diverse applications of fuel cell technology that can make America more energy independent and also a cleaner source of energy, more efficient, more environmentally friendly. As I came here driving through eastern Connecticut and in fact approaching this great complex, I recalled the last trip I took along the banks of the river that we abut here, which was a train ride from the New London area up to Norwich, and reminded me as we traveled along the river, along those tracks, which in days past were a source of transportation for the entire region, that now the effort to revive our railways as a source of citizen or commuter travel as well as transportation of freight returns us to the past. It's going from the future back to the future in a sense. And fuel cell technology has very much the feel of a renewable and environmentally friendly source of energy that, in the tradition of Native Americans seeking to make use of the world's and its natural resources, is a way to preserve those resources and make sure that we not only make new jobs, but also make sure that we preserve the precious natural resources that are part of our heritage. The efforts in the Congress, and I know you've heard from my colleague John Larson, have been growing to incentivize and really spur and encourage the use of fuel cell energy. We recently revived the Fuel Cell Energy Caucus, bipartisan. Two of my colleagues, Republicans, Senators Hoeven and Graham, joined with me and Senator Coons in reviving the Fuel Cell Caucus. It has since been joined by a number of my colleagues across the country, not limited to one party or one area of the country, but this movement, I think, is gaining momentum across the country. Second, Congressman Larson and I have introduced a measure that would increase the tax credit incentives from 30% to 50%, remove the limits on those incentives, and provide for broader eligibility for those tax credits. Of course, at a time of fiscal austerity, there is a severe question about the viability of any tax credit proposal. But this one is an investment that I think makes sense, and simply to increase it from 30% to 50% provides incentives that are important. I've been a strong advocate of greater use of fuel cell technology in government contracting, particularly for the military. And as a member of the Armed Services Committee, I have encouraged all of the armed services, particularly the Army and the Marine Corps, as well as the Navy and its new construction, to make use of fuel cell technology. So I'm a strong advocate, and I think that the budget for this year hopefully will reflect this priority that the Congress feels should be given to fuel cell technology. As many of you know, the appropriations this year for the Solid Energy Conversion Alliance, as well as the Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Technology Program in the Department of Energy, have both been maintained at the present levels of $125 million and $104 million, or I'm sorry, $25 million and $104 million, respectively. The transportation bill provides money for the kinds of mass transportation, buses, and so forth that are important. And the Farm Bill also creates incentives. But all of these bills must get through Congress, which brings me to the main point, actually 2 points, that I want to set forth for you here. First of all, the good news about that South Korean contract with fuel cell energy also highlights a cloud on the horizon, because it will reflect the fact that South Korea now has the largest fuel cell energy park in the world, I believe, if it's been correctly conveyed and reported publicly, which means that the energy policy of South Korea, in a sense, is surpassing our own in this area. South Korea has an energy policy that maximizes and focuses on fuel cell technology for all the reasons that the United States should, because it's clean, because it's a source of independence, because it's efficient, and we are in danger of falling behind. This world will not sit still for the United States. And even as we license our technology, even as we thereby encourage manufacture around the world, we are in danger of the world excelling and passing and surpassing us. And the second point, which is raised by the issue of tax credits and fiscal austerity appropriations, is that our federal government, really our government at every levels, must do better at fulfilling its responsibilities, coming together in a bipartisan way for exactly this kind of program. The Fuel Cell Caucus, I hope, will provide a springboard for greater awareness and acceptance, as well as support, at every level in our federal government, not only the Congress, our legislative branch, but also the executive branch. And if we can muster and mobilize that kind of bipartisan support for a cause that is truly bipartisan, there's nothing Republican or Democrat about fuel cell technology. And speaking here on Election Day, my hope is that post-election we will come together on this cause and come together on the fiscal challenges that must be met. The fiscal cliff is simply a visual analogy for the challenge that must be met by Washington in bringing spending under control, putting us on a sustainable and sound pathway that's balanced with not only spending cuts, but also revenue increases. And I hope that there is a consensus for that kind of solution, and that the government itself will be solution-oriented rather than ideologically driven. There is nothing, again, ideological about fuel cells, about hydrogen as a source of fuel, about this kind of technology. And I'm hoping that, again, the caucus, the cause, and the challenge will help to bring us together in Washington, D.C., and do better. One of my frustrations in the short time that I've been in the United States Senate, one of my main frustrations, if not the predominant one, has been the partisan gridlock that is all too apparent and aggravating to most Americans. And Washington must do better. Thank you for reminding us about the importance of this cause. Thank you for your dedication to it. And to all of the advocates and activists, because you are enabling and empowering us to do better. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Senator. Great to hear that.
Remember, there's a U.S. congressman and a U.S. senator here, so don't let him get out the door without a couple $2 billion for hydrogen and fuel cells. And thank you, Chip and Joel, and thank you, everyone, for coming. Just a couple announcements before we wrap it up. The hydrogen and fuel cell presentation tracks will start at 1 o'clock. And don't forget, there's a welcome reception at the exhibition hall right next door, starting at 5 o'clock, 5 to 7 tonight. So thank you very much. Thank you all for attending, and go hydrogen. Thank you.
Please exit the room and join us in the hydrogen fuel cell presentation track starting shortly. Don't forget the 2:30 p.m. Stars, Stripes, and Something Sweet break in the showroom sponsored by Fuel Cell Energy.